Friday. How's everybody doing today? Great to see you all. Hope you guys have had a wonderful week. Hope you've had a wonderful Friday. Kayla, how's it going? Great to see you. TJ, I need help. Awesome. Drop your college recruiting questions down below. Let's get you some help. What questions do you have about recruiting, guys? Let's go. Let's rock and roll. Just because it's Friday don't mean we don't got work to do. We got work to do. Glad to hear you're doing well, Kayla. It's great to see you. Rob, good afternoon, sir. As always, consistency. It's great to see you. Drop your college recruiting questions down below. Been a heck of a week. Been just a ton of offers, ton of scholarship money. It's just awesome. It's just awesome to see. So drop your college recruiting questions down below so that you can also get big-time scholarship offers to schools that you love. Drop them down below. Let's go. What do we got? Gonna be good. What do we got? Are there any questions in here yet? I haven't looked. You guys got questions here? Drop your college recruiting questions down below. Mr. Coach Brant. Brant is in the house. Brant, how are we doing, sir? Great to see you. Okay. Why do coaches follow and not respond to any communication? Good question, Jill. Usually it's because they're just not ready to yet, right? So a follow, there's some confusion sometimes about follows, which is like some people think that a follow is super important, and there's other people who think a follow is completely meaningless and doesn't mean anything. The answer is actually somewhere in the middle, and there's a hawk right there. That's pretty cool. The answer is somewhere in the middle. A follow doesn't mean nothing, right? Like college coaches aren't going around following players who are really bad. Like they're just not doing that. That does nothing for them, right? So when a coach follows you, though, we have what we call the hierarchy of interest, meaning that not all levels of communication are the same. And when a coach follows you, that would be the bottom rung of expressing interest. It's not nothing, but it's not a lot. So the goal is then to move them into an email or a DM, to a phone call or a text, to a visit, to an offer, etc. Okay. So why would a coach follow you but not respond to any messages or anything like that? The answer is simple. They're not ready to move to the next level of communication yet with you, right? You haven't given them enough of a reason for them to move up to the next level. Now, it could mean that it has nothing to do with your kid, has nothing to do with your messaging, with your evidence, or anything like that. It might just be that maybe they're early, right? And they're not really recruiting your position in grad class yet. Or it could just be that they're busy right now, right? Like there could be something else, but it simply means that right now they're not ready to go to the next level. Your job is not to force coaches into the next level. You're not going to be able to force coaches to do what you want them to do, except in really one scenario, which is at the very end of the process. If you have offers and you tell other coaches about offers, then you kind of force them because it's like if they don't come and give you an offer, you're going to commit somewhere else. That's the only real scenario that you have any kind of ability to force a coach to do something. Okay. So it's not going to happen otherwise. You're not going to force them. So the goal is you need to continue to provide enough value to move them into the next stage of that. That's what you have to do. So a follow is not nothing. Coaches aren't going around following players that they don't think are any good. But if they haven't responded to your messages yet, then we have to give them enough value and stay consistent for a long enough period of time that eventually we do progress to that next level of communication. What's your opinion of Missouri State having an entire roster of international students for men's soccer? Yeah, I mean, just soccer in general recruits heavily internationally. That's not really like a new thing. Now, maybe an entire roster of that. Yeah, okay. But soccer has always recruited internationally for a very long time. And so like, yeah, I mean, as an American, I'd love to see more Americans on that team. But, I don't really have too much of an opinion on it, mostly just because that's outside of my control and our control. I like to focus on things that are within our control. Daughter's a sophomore playing varsity flag football as a quarterback. What's the next step for us to start looking at colleges for her to play? So when you're a sophomore, you're in the build the foundation stage, right? You're in the build the foundation stage, meaning that when you get to the end of sophomore year, into junior year, that's when you're really going to want to ramp all of your efforts up. So it's difficult to do that if you haven't built a strong foundation. So right now, I would do a couple things. One is, and I think I've seen you here before. I might have mentioned this to you before, but the first thing I would do is I would go get every single school in the country that has women's flag football, because I'm guessing it's not a crazy amount. I'd go get all of them. And then I would get contact information for all those schools. And then I would get as much video as you possibly can of her playing flag football. And then I would contact all those schools and I would start posting to social media. And some of that is kind of combining like ramp up. But at the very least, you should be getting video of all the necessary skills that she needs to showcase. And then you should be putting together a list of schools. Like those would be the first two main things that I would do. And remember, if you've been here before, guys, how many schools should be on that list? If you've been here before, throw it in the chat. How many schools should be on that list? The answer is at least 100. But of course, because it's women's flag football, there might not be 100, right? So you just deal with what you got. For instance, water polo, you're not going to get 100 schools. You're just not. So keep that in mind. But if you can get to 100 or there's over 100, then we usually say 100 schools. Rob is right. See it in the chat. Beautiful. Kayla, how many emails should you typically send to a school? I recommend at least 3. Now, keep in mind, I recommend that you contact multiple coaches on staff and then contact each one of those at least 3 times. So if there's like 3 coaches on staff and you're going to send each one 3 messages, that's 9 messages to the one school, right? So that's typically what I would say. But the reality of the situation is you can send as many as you want. You can send as many as you want. You could just keep going. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm worried. I don't want to annoy them. If they haven't responded to you, what's the worst that can happen? They're already not interested. You know, like they already haven't given you the time of day. So what do you have to lose? So, but the short answer to that question is I'd send at least 3. As an academy, how can it help players to reach their dreams? It's a great question. It's a great question. As an academy, I would also say this goes for club teams, travel teams, anything like that. Okay. I'm going to give you an unbiased answer, and then I'm going to give you a biased answer. Okay. The unbiased answer is encourage your players to not be reliant solely on you for recruiting. Right, as the academy, like encourage them that they also have a role in this and they should be contacting schools, posting content, making videos, like encourage them to do that stuff. A lot of travel teams, I see this, and academies and club teams, they get scared sometimes if they encourage players to do that because they think that it decreases their value, that the organization can only provide value if they're giving connections and they're putting them in showcases and tournaments and stuff like that. That is not the only way that organizations can provide value. And you saying, hey, you should also be doing these other things does not diminish the value that you bring to the table. Okay. All it does is it reduces the burden on you and your athletes will get better results. Because I hate to break it to you, if you run an academy, travel team, or club team and athletes are solely reliant on you to deliver results, they will get subpar results because you have lots of other players on your plate. You're not gonna be able to help all of them intensely like that, right? You're running a business, you're developing players, you got a personal life, you got other stuff, right? They're solely relying on you. That's a problem. And so I would say encourage those players to do stuff outside of your organization to make that happen. That's my unbiased answer. My biased answer is twofold. 1, have them follow all the D1 scholarship stuff, all of our stuff. It's free. Telling them to follow it is free. And we post a ton of free information that has gotten people a lot of scholarship offers, even without ever paying us a dime. Okay. So I'd have them follow us. The second thing is we do partner with clubs. So if you want to partner, we have a partnership program. And so if you're interested in that, you can go to our website, go to organizations, and you can go right in there. If you qualify, then we'd be happy to talk to you. If I get an invite to a college camp, should I reply? And if so, what should I say? Yep. You should always reply to every single invite, no matter how much you like or don't like the school, no matter how generic or personalized the message is, you should always be replying to that. Now, how you reply depends on a lot of factors, right? Depends on how personal or generic the message is. But I'll give you like a quick thing that I would say. I say, hey, coach, thanks so much for the invite. I'll check with my parents. Can I keep you updated with video in the meantime? And then what you're doing is you're saying, maybe I'll come to your camp, but you're opening some dialogue where you can continue to send them evidence and see if you can get more conversation to happen before you actually commit to going to the event. Works all the time. Going on an unofficial visit with my daughter this weekend. What questions should we ask? Avoid. So I think of questions in different tiers. Okay. So you have questions that you would use in the beginning, questions you'd use in the middle, and questions you'd use at the end. I'll just give you a couple examples. Questions that you would use in the beginning would be something like, if you're talking to the assistant coach, you say, what's it like to play for the head coach, right? You can ask, what's the culture of the team like? You say, what's your timeline for the 2027 class or 2026 class, right? You can ask, how can I make the process easier on you? Those would all be what we would call tier 1 questions. Those are great for early on in the process. As you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the process, you want to start asking more specific, deeper questions, right? How long do you see yourself at this school? If you had to give me one reason to come here, what would it be? Now you start to get the coach to sell you. So questions fall into different categories, right? Would it make sense to start joining Nike leagues, Adidas leagues, et cetera, if she's taking it serious and already getting looked at? Maybe, but you also don't have to. Would it make it easier? Yes. Is it mandatory? No. For football, do emails get recruited? For football, do emails help get recruited or strictly X? So even if there's a platform that is better for your sport than another, you should always be on multiple platforms. So you say for football, yeah, X is the most important thing, right? But that doesn't mean that you should not send emails. And again, I'll throw up, if you've been here before, you know what I'm about to do. Here comes the recruiting trends report. We studied over 8,000 athletes. Guess what we found? Athletes who get exposure on multiple platforms get 59% more interest on average. Okay. So by simply saying, we're just going to do this one platform because it's the most important for our sport, you're probably missing out on interest and offers. So if you want to see the rest of the recruiting trends report, by the way, d1scholarship.com/2026, you can go check that out. But I would still do emails. Here's the thing. One, some schools will still recruit via email on football, and that's great. But here's how you should also think about this. If you send a bunch of emails and nobody responds, okay, you're like, it didn't work. But if some of those coaches went and followed you on Twitter because that's where they choose to do their recruiting, then email was still beneficial. It got you some traction that's now going to be continued on Twitter. You wouldn't have gotten that if you hadn't sent the email, right? And so just because you don't get a response on one platform doesn't mean it's not helping other platforms. And I've mentioned this before, which is everything in the recruiting process should be working together. If you're using one-off tactics, you're grabbing this tactic from this guy over here and this tactic from your coach and this tactic from here, this webinar or seminar you went to, and just trying to like jigsaw it all together, you're going to have a hard time. Everything in the process should be working together into a cohesive unit to make the process more effective. And so my point is, if you're sending emails and they go to Twitter, no problem. Good thing you send emails. You know what I mean? But I keep going back to that recruiting trends report because it's so critical to understand. Athletes who get exposure on multiple platforms are likely to get 59% more interest on average. That's no joke. So if you want to see the recruiting trends report, it's free. Download it, d1scholarship.com/2026. But I would say even if there's a platform that is great for your sport, you should still be on multiple platforms. What does it mean when a D1 coach notices me at an ID camp, emails me camp information, follow me on NCSA, follow me on Instagram? Is that interest? 2029 grad girl soccer player. Yeah, it's interest. You're probably just really early. So they're probably like, yeah, we just want to watch the player. That's it. We just want to watch the player. But yeah, I would say that's some sign of interest, but you're still so early, still so early. Mara, how's your day going? My day's going great. Thanks for asking. I appreciate you. We had a little bit of a hiccup. I took the Harley out and my shifter came off. So I had to go get another shifter, which was fun. Not so much. That kind of ruined my afternoon, but that's okay. Dealt with it, and that is what it is. Do you send the same updates to the large email list, or do you separate out coaches who have replied? We separate out coaches who have replied. So we handle coaches who haven't replied and who have replied differently. Right. And here's how I would think about this. Again, I'm going to use dating because I think it's the simplest way to understand this is like, would you treat your girlfriend or boyfriend or spouse differently than you would treat people who you're not dating? For sure. Right. Like for sure. The same thing is true in college recruiting. You don't want to treat coaches that you're talking to the same way as other coaches. You want to tailor your communication to the stage they're at. Because again, I talked about the hierarchy of interest earlier, how like the basic rung would be getting followed on social media, right? And then you move up to like an email or a DM, and then a phone call or a text, and then a visit, and then an offer. And so you're going to have coaches at different phases, and you want to speak to them differently, right? If a coach has just followed you on social media and that's the only interaction you've had with them, you're probably going to talk to that coach differently than you would speak to a coach that you've had 5 phone calls with, but don't have an offer from yet, right? Like you would speak to those 2 coaches differently. So not only should you treat coaches that you haven't gotten interest from yet differently than coaches you have, but also within the category of coaches who have expressed interest, you're also going to talk to those coaches differently too. And that's part of conversion, right? Taking general interest and turning it into offers is treating each of those specifically. I'm seeing some hundreds in the chat too. That's from the question earlier on where I asked, how many schools should we contact based on those who have been here to these lives before? And you guys crushed it. 100 was the answer. 100 was the answer. Liam's dad. Maybe Liam's dad. Great to see you again. 2028, 11 schools interested in including 3 that have shown genuine interest will attend Future 500 in Philadelphia. Is it a good one to go to? You say including 3 that have shown interest that will be at that event. Sounds like it's a good one to go to because schools that you're already talking to will be there. That's the key piece of information there. So yeah, 100%. Sounds like it. Thanks for taking all the questions. You got it, Bill. It's great to see you, sir. Thanks for coming back. Great to see you. As always, Team Bellinger, you got it. You got it. Are you a Bellinger fan? Baseball? Maybe. I don't know. Thank you for the information, brother. I always appreciate it. Thank you again. Hope you have a great day. You too. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming. What's a GPA you should be aiming for? If you have a 3.5, then you can go to most places. Maybe not the top of the top, but 3.5 is going to get you into most places. If you're above a 3.0, you're playing with fire, but you're okay. Anything below a 3.0, and we got to get that up. You're really going to reduce the number of opportunities that you have. Because think about it, the way that you should think about the GPA, if you have less than a 3.0, you're basically saying if this is the total number of schools, right, that are recruiting, you're right off the bat, before you ever send them video, before they ever see you play, before anything like that, you automatically, from the get-go, if you have less than a 3.0, you reduce the window of schools that you can talk to like this, right? It's a significantly smaller portion, significantly smaller before you do anything else. And so if your window is like this because of your GPA, and then you have schools that are recruiting your grad class and position and schools that think you're good, right? You just get really, really tight on that window. So anything below a 3.0, we got to get that up. Anything below 3.0, 3.5, it's okay, but I'd like it to be higher. Anything above 3.5, you're in good shape. You're going to be able to go to a lot of schools. You're going to be able to go to a lot of schools. Thanks, Jack. Very helpful as usual. Mark, that's your name. Okay, Mark. Mark, it's great to see you, sir. I'm glad it's helpful as always. That's the plan. Girls soccer, it's getting incredibly competitive, especially with the ECNL League. Is it best to have a list of schools like NAI and D3 interest to make you a bit more qualified with D1s? Yeah, Sophie, so great question. A couple things on this, okay? The first is, yes, I would have a list of NAIAs and D3s to make you more qualified, like basically for a few reasons. One is you want to build a safety net, okay? Because if you have NAIA and D3 interest and you're progressing with those schools, then you have the total freedom to go after all the D1 schools that you're interested in. And now you're not just on a shooting star, you have a solid backup plan. That's really great, right? And so like set your backup plan. Once you have the backup plan, you can shoot for the stars. If you only shoot for the stars, you don't have a backup plan and you fall, it's going to hurt, you know? And so that's the first reason. The second reason is when you have interest from schools, even if they're lower level schools, that's still some sort of leverage that you can use with D1 schools, right? Where they go, that player's wanted by other schools. Maybe they're pretty good. Now, is it more beneficial and is leverage stronger if it's in the same division? Yes. If D1 schools that you're talking to other D1 schools, if they see that, then that's more beneficial than if they see you talking to D3 schools. But it's still better than nothing for you to be talking to D3 schools, even if you're trying to get to D1. So absolutely, this is why we recommend that families contact at least 3 different divisions. At least 3 different divisions. Because if you are, again, if you have a backup plan, then you're able to go reach for D1s. And if you don't get them, you don't get them, you know, and it's okay. So 100%, Sophie, that's a great idea. Emma, great to see you again. Sophomore beach volleyball player. Sent first round of emails. Send next round in a month with updated highlights. Keep emailing monthly. Depends on really how much you want it, right? Typically, what we would do is we would have a first list of schools. You might not be able to do this with beach volleyball if there's not as many, but we'll do like a first list of schools, see how that first campaign responds. Then we'll do a second list of schools and see how that responds. And then we'll go back to the first list after that. It's typically what we would do. So if you want to keep hitting those first ones over and over and over again, you absolutely can. The one thing that I will keep you or make aware, I guess, make you aware of is, if you keep pounding your head against a brick wall, it's going to hurt. Meaning if you continue to reach out to schools that don't respond or express interest in any way, and you're not changing your strategy at all, you shouldn't expect anything to change, right? So yes, you can contact them literally as many times as you want. That's awesome. But if you're not getting interest, there should be some other contingency plan from other schools, lower level schools, something like that, where you can start to build some interest. Going on my first call with an NAIA school soon. Congratulations, Sophie. What are some things that I should and shouldn't do? Honestly, should and shouldn't do is not a difficult question to answer. The answer is just be respectful. As long as you're respectful and you're prepared, then you're going to be fine. Okay. Normally we would talk about questions. In terms of questions, I answered them at the beginning of this. Someone asked about questions on a visit, and I talked through some like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 questions. I would go back and watch the live. They're on YouTube. You can go watch all the past lives like this if you find them helpful. And I would go back and listen to that answer from this one when it gets posted, because I would ask some of those questions. But honestly, in terms of shouldn't do, as long as you're respectful, you're really not going to blow it. There are ways that you can make it dramatically better, which are some of the questions that I was talking about, some other stuff. But in terms of like blowing it, you'd have to really just say like the really, really wrong thing. You often say to cast a wide net, contact over 100. If I'm only interested in going to 25 schools, isn't it a waste, even if I got offers from somewhere else? I'll say a couple things, okay? One is those 25 schools. Rob, let's say that you contact your 25 schools that you're really interested in, okay? One of them comes back to you and says, we're interested. You're like, dang, all right, only one, but at least one of them's interested. And it's your top school. You're like, man, I love this school. At least they responded. At some point, you know what they're going to ask you? They're going to say, who else are you talking to? Right? They want to know who else you're getting recruited by. And when you answer that question as, well, nobody, because I only contacted 25 schools, guess what that school is going to think? Well, if you were a good player, wouldn't you be getting recruited by more schools? Problem. And now that one school responded, but now you've lost them because they're like, man, this kid must not be that good, right? So the first thing you should do is you should contact more than 25, because if you get interest from other schools, like you can then use that interest to get the 25 that you want. When the 25 see that you're talking to a bunch of other schools, they're like, oh, must be a good player. You have a higher likelihood of getting an offer from those 25 schools now. That's the first reason. Second reason is, Rob, I can't tell you how many times somebody says, well, I'm only interested in 25 schools, or I'm only interested in 17 schools. I'm only interested in 5 schools. Everybody says this over and over and over again. Also, Rob, you know how many times I've seen somebody get interest from a school outside of their top 25? And then they talk to the coach and they're like, all right, I love the coach. I don't really like the school, but I love the coach. Then they go on campus for a visit because the coach asked them to. And they're like, all right, I'll just go because I like the coach. Then they go on campus and then they go, this is pretty great. This isn't at all what I expected. I could see myself here. And all of a sudden the ugly duckling becomes the swan. And Rob, I can't tell you how many times this happens. And everybody thinks, well, that's not going to be me. That's everybody else, but I'm not going to feel that way. I'm telling you, man, so many players feel that way. And you wouldn't have gotten that other opportunity if you didn't expand outside of 25. So Rob, love you, want the best for you. You still need to contact 100 schools, even if you're only interested in 25. And then in 6, 12, or 18 months, whenever you're done with your recruiting process, come back and thank me for it, okay? Because that's what most families end up doing. If you go listen to our testimonial interviews, which we have a ton of them on YouTube and on our website, literal like interviews with our families, video interviews, they're like 15 to some cases like an hour long. Go listen to those families. A huge chunk of them say we were hesitant to contact 100 schools in the beginning. Now that we're on the other side of it, thank God you told us to do that. Thank God. General thoughts on the tennis landscape? I mean, what is there to say? It's same as a lot of other sports in the sense that it's competitive. Tennis is going to be a combo of video and stats because you're going to want UTR in there. So there's going to be a couple, but I don't know. Is there something specific that you want me to talk about in terms of tennis? It's very competitive, like every other sport. Had a great season, just won conference championship. Congratulations. That's awesome. Going to compete at nationals. We'll be competing at nationals, and not being so successful hurt all the work I did in high school. No, not necessarily. No, because remember, like, you're not going to be perfect every time you go play your sport. And college coaches know that. You know what I mean? Like, they know that. They know that you're going to have off weekends. Now, it would be way better if you didn't have an off weekend at nationals. That would be great. But coaches know that happens. The story that I usually tell when we talk about something like this is, like, West Point came to watch me play, and I had like one of the worst games ever. I played baseball. I struck out like 3 or 4 times. And I remember thinking, all right, I just blew my opportunity with West Point. And then like the next week, I got a call from the coach. It's like, hey, Jack, man, look great. Love watching you play. We'd love to have you out for a visit. And yeah, we want you to come to West Point. And I remember I straight up asked him. I was kind of bold. I was like, Coach, were we watching the same game? Like, I did not really play well. He was like, yeah, that's okay. I already saw a ton of video from you, and I already talked to all of your coaches. I know you're a good player. I just wanted to see you in the flesh. I just wanted to see you play. And honestly, when you were striking out and I saw you didn't hold your head and you had a good attitude, you were a good teammate, you still competed, that showed me everything I needed to know, right? And so actually, looking back, having a bad game was like the best thing that could have happened to me for that school. He already knew that I was a good player. He needed to evaluate something different. So I would say your career isn't going to ride on one singular event, right? So just because you have a bad event doesn't mean that it's all over for you. So no, I would say go compete, play free. Jack, you a stud in a world of mess. I appreciate you. Thank you. Son playing ball at D3, building muscle, expanding brain at Great Fit. Love that. 6-figure scholarship. Getting lots of love to build his body and mind for D1 transfer. Andrew, are you the Andrew that I'm thinking of? If you are, that's awesome, man. Really, really glad to hear it, man. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate you. 6-figure scholarships. No joke, my man. Congratulations. And I think you are the same Andrew that I'm thinking of. It's good to see you. Good to hear from you. How frequently do you hold the social media classes? Not frequently, but we do have one coming up on February 10th. It is February 6th. That means we are 4 days away. We're 4 days away. Andrew says, yes, sir, you're the best. Okay, awesome, Andrew. It's great to see you, sir. Thanks for being here. Social media workshop is in 4 days. So it's on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We host the next social media workshop after this one, if we even host another one, because there's no guarantee that we will. If we do, it won't be for probably a couple months at least, because we cycle the workshop topics, right? We do email, social media, follow-ups, video, blah, 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 right? So social media workshop, February 10th. Tickets are live right now. They're $129. And the price goes up on Monday. So if you want to get a better deal, now is the time to do it. D1scholarship.com/social media workshop. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And so not frequently, Sam, is the answer to your question. We'll do this one on Tuesday, and then we probably won't do another social media one for a couple months, if I had to guess, if we do another one. Workshops are always kind of funky. Sometimes we do a lot of them. Sometimes we go months without doing them. Just kind of depends on what we're feeling. But so if you want to learn social media and how to use it in the recruiting process, we've generated tens of millions of dollars in scholarships. If you want to see what we're doing, then this is the move. This Tuesday, February 10th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can get the recording. If you're a ticket purchaser beforehand, you can get the recording of it if you're interested. D1scholarship.com/social media workshop. Emma, just want to say this free help has already been so helpful. Sent that first round of emails, got unofficial invite, getting social media coach follows, learning so much. Still early, but so helpful. Banger. Love that. That's exactly the point. That's the point, guys. Want the free stuff to be better than other people's paid stuff? because then maybe you'll imagine how good the paid stuff is. And for people who want it, then they can always get more help. But that's exactly the point, Emma. I'm so happy for you. Keep me updated on your process, okay? I love seeing when people are getting offers and scholarships and stuff, even if they're not a client of ours. That's awesome. That's amazing. Want to provide as much value to you all as we possibly can. All right. I think we reached the bottom, and it's 3:30. We're 30 minutes in, and it's a Friday. So unless you guys have anything else, we'll call it for the day. We'll call it a short one. And then next week, we're going to be back, but we're going to be back at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be back at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to switch it from the 5 o'clock. I like the 1 p.m. time better. So we're going to do 1 p.m. If you're down, come hang out. Come hang out. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. Have a great weekend. Go get some interest. Go get some offers. Keep me updated next week. I'll see you guys next week. Have a wonderful weekend.